Hey guys, it has been a while, but I've created a new Dune video. This time I'm doing a deep dive into one of the saga's most enigmatic characters, Princess Irulan. Notably absent from Denis Villeneuve's Dune, I'm certain she will be portrayed in Dune Part 2. So let's have a closer look at this character. Princess Irulan Corrino was the eldest daughter of the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV and his wife Anirul, a Bene Gesserit of hidden rank. Born in 10162 AG, Irulan is the eldest of 5 daughters the emperor had. The fact Shaddam had only daughters proved to be a problem in a feudalistic society that favored male primogeniture. However, it appears both Shaddam and Irulan intended for her to become empress, or at least for her to marry in such a way as to maintain House Corrino's hegemony. From a young age, Irulan was trained by the Bene Gesserit, notably by Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mahayam. The Bene Gesserit intended to manipulate her and use her as an agent for when she became an adult. However, her strong personal identity meant she was never completely under their influence. During her youth, growing up with her mother and sisters, it was suspected by her that some of the many assassination attempts on her life were orchestrated by her father. Princess Irulan occupies a peculiar position in the story. Every chapter starts with a quote by Irulan from one of the many books she has written about the events set during the novel and on particular characters, notably Paul Atreides and the father Shaddam IV. While the story of Dune does not pretend it is written by Irulan, like the Lord of the Rings states with Bilbo Baggins, instead it merely alludes that Dune is based on many of her writings. Similarly, her nephew Ferratan Corrino has a similar relation to Children of Dune as does Leto Atreides with God Emperor of Dune. As Dune progresses, it are her quotes that give context to the story. It is odd that through her quotations and that of Ferrat Corrino in later books, we end up with a view that is more positive of House Corrino. Due to their kinship with the Atreides, they are considered mere rivals instead of blood enemies such as the Harkonnen. Princess Irulan has been played by 2 actresses up until now. The first time was by Virginia Madsen in David Lynch's 1984 adaptation of the novel. Her role stayed true to the source material, but that means it was also very small. Irulan voices a prologue to the movie, giving the audience a rough idea of the background. Sadly, she only returns for a few more scenes and speaks no more than 1 or 2 lines. The Dune series by Sci-Fi Channel from 2000 and the sequel from 2003 marked a major departure for the character. She became an integral character whenever the story was not immediately focused on events on Dune. Irulan became an amalgamation of Count Vernig's wife, Margot, and a little bit of Lady Jessica. Her storyline focused mostly on discovering what her father, the Emperor, had been up to with House Harkonnen, and later who the mysterious Fremen leader was. For narrative purposes, this makes a lot of sense. The politics of Dune are not easy to understand, especially if they are only mentioned in passing. Through Irulan, the audience experiences the subplots more vividly. It gives additional opportunities to add scenes with her father Shaddam IV, the Baron Harkonnen, and his nephew Fade. Despite the departure from the way the story is told, it does remain truthful to the source material. I will add that Julie Cox's depiction of Irulan has so far been the only one with real substance. The actors returned for the sequel series, but it was a less prominent role. Now let's have a look at the moments that Princess Irulan is part of the narrative. As mentioned, every chapter of the Dune novel is presaged with a quote from her, often giving context to the plot against House Atreides. Despite the importance of the narrative position, we see very little of Irulan in the story itself. Not until the end, after her father and 3 of his legions on Arrakis have been defeated, do we see her in the flesh. Paul notices her amongst the captive Corrinos and considers her to be a key to solidify his power. It is Mohiam that reminds Shaddam IV of the benefits of such a match. After Paul defeats the Harkonnen heir, Feyd-Rautha, Shaddam is forced to agree to the match. For Irulan this means only duty, as Paul never intends to consummate the match, preferring Chani instead. Irulan's subservient position to Chani reaches a boiling point in Dune Messiah. She actively involves herself in a conspiracy with the Bene Gesserit, Spacing Guild and Bene Tleilax to undermine Paul, who is now Emperor of the known universe. For her part in the conspiracy, she is ordered to poison Chani, not to kill her outright, but to prevent her from having children who it is feared would be prescient just like Paul. Irulan performs this task, along with many other subtle acts she performs to undermine Atreides' rule. However, Chani manages to conceive using a Fremen diet, but dies in childbirth. This causes Irulan to have feelings of remorse. However, Paul forgives her this treachery and even considers it may have prolonged Chani's life. In 2005, authors Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson wrote a companion book, The Road to Dune. Among other things, it contains deleted chapters from Dune and Dune Messiah. One such chapter deals with the death of the conspirators. In it, Gaius Helen Mohiam sacrifices herself to allow Irulan to escape from the mob that became enraged by the death of Paul. From the chapter, it cannot be conclusively stated whether Irulan escapes or is killed. After the disappearance of Paul, the death of Chani and the birth of the twins Ganima and Leto, Irulan repents for her involvement in undermining House Atreides. She focuses on the upbringing of her stepchildren, always under the watchful eye of Alia, Duncan and Stilgar. However, for most of their upbringing, Irulan's greatest concern is the unnerving use of other memories and prescience. This changes when Alia suffers abomination with her indulgence of spice, attempting to broaden her prescient visions. Events culminate in the twins escaping a Corrino assassination attempt organized by Irulan's sister Wensitia, but without involvement of Irulan. Leto goes into hiding while Ganima performs self-hypnosis to ensure she believes Leto is really dead. After further provocations, Stilgar ends up killing Duncan and flees with Ganima and Irulan to his siege. A small-scale Fremen civil war ensues, with Alia desperate to get Ganima back to betroth her to Wensitia's son Prince Faratin. Stilgar returns Ganima to Alia, but demands the pledge that no harm should befall her or to Princess Irulan. Alia agrees. Before the betrothal, Alia dies by her own hand. Prince Faratin becomes consort to Ganima, thus securing the line of Atreides and Corrino, essentially the task that Irulan had wanted. Irulan remains as she intends to look after the children of Faratin and Ganima. Princess Irulan is little mentioned in Dune afterwards. In fact, she is never mentioned in the Dune Saga thereafter. Only in the expanded Dune universe does she appear, but only as a minor character. One thing that I do note is the reprieve the character was given for her treachery during the events of Dune Messiah. That, along with sending her father into exile and making Faratin consort to Ganima, convinces me the author Frank Herbert had a special liking for House Corrino. This is a topic I actually discussed in my first YouTube video, 5 Great Dune Mysteries. I am not certain as to why the author favoured their survival. It may be a combination of desiring a feudalistic end to Shaddam's reign, as opposed to outright destruction, as to what happened to the Harkonnens, but also a need for certain characters to continue on into the sequel novels. Before Dune was published, the author had already written part of Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, so ensuring continuity is a must. Giving Irulan the unusual position of scribe to the saga brings her more to the foreground. So that was it for my video on Princess Irulan. I hope you enjoyed it. I think this will become a regular part of this channel. If you liked the video, please hit the like button or otherwise subscribe to my channel. That will really help me out. See you next time.